I'm going to ask for Rosa if you'd like to say a few words, and would you like to share your screen also?
Yes.
Great. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing mine, and you should have access.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. We are really happy to see you here. My name is Feroza Kanji. I am one of the math coordinators, secondary math coordinators at the Division of Instruction. And I just wanted to share a few slides, just a little bit about this PD. And here we go. See if I can put it in slideshow mode. Awesome. So I wanted to just start out by just explaining what we mean by tier 2. So this is part of the multi-tiered system. And we think about students in our classes and we sort of categorize them in 3 groups. There's the group that when you do your first instruction, they sort of get they learn what they're supposed to learn, and that they're able to be successful in learning with your first instruction. Then there's another group that needs a little bit of extra help. With a little bit of extra help, we're calling these the tier 2 students. They can be successful. And what we're really encouraging is that you try and provide that little bit of extra help within your classroom rather than sending them out to tutoring or to some other way of getting that extra help, to try and build it in your classroom. And that's the tier 2 students that we're targeting today in this workshop. And then the tier 3 students are the ones that need a lot of extra help and that might need like a support class or extra tutoring or some other kinds of supports. So that's what this focus is on the tier 2 students that with a little bit of help within your class, they'll be okay. We have designed this workshop as a series. There's 4 sessions, and we really want you to try and attend all four sessions so that you get the maximum out of this. Each session is sort of designed with a particular focus. We're going to call them problems of practice. And we really encourage you to try and take what you learn from this workshop and implement it in your classroom. You might not be able to implement everything. Even if you just take one thing and implement it, that's fine. And in order to help you implement, we are going to offer office hours in between sessions. So you'll see something in the workshop, and then once you try it, if you have questions or you're getting ready to plan for it, if you have questions, we're going to offer some in between office hours to help you if you need help. So I will send out the details of that. We're looking at sort of early March, the first week of March, as a time when we will have office hours, but I'll confirm that via email through my PLN. We are paying training rate for you to attend, and so signing in and out is really important. And since it is a series, we are just paying as you go each session rather than waiting till the end and then paying you for all 4 sessions. And you do have the option of getting national board hours instead of training rates. So if that's what you want, then please email me and I will sign off on whatever I need to sign off on. We do have some space in this workshop for other teachers, and so we would really love for you to invite your colleagues from your school. We think it's really powerful when a team of teachers from the same school attends. You all have like common strategies that you can discuss together, that like you're all using the same strategies across all your grade levels. That's a really powerful thing, and you can also collaborate with each other and share lessons with each other and sort of make the most of this difficult time that we're in by sort of sharing with each other. So we really invite you to invite your other 8th grade teachers from your school, and we feel that this will be also very appropriate for 7th grade teachers. because we're talking about providing extra support. And a lot of times that extra support is like going back and looking at the 7th grade standards that support 8th grade. So we'll be looking at that. And so we think 7th grade teachers will really benefit. And also, if you have a co-teacher that's an RSP teacher, feel free to invite them. We think that you'll get a lot out of it, and you'll experience it today, and I'm sure you'll be ready to invite other people as well. We are really excited to partner with Callahan Consulting to present this workshop series to you. And I'm going to hand it over to them and let them get started.
Great, thank you so much, Rosa, for that introduction. And so lovely to see so many of you here on a Saturday morning. You guys are like the really committed group coming on your weekends. So really lovely to see so many of you. And when we first discussed with Rosa about offering this on a Saturday, I thought, wow, like PD on a Saturday. But then I remembered, I used to attend a lot of PD on Saturdays. So I totally get it. And we're just so happy to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and bring that screen up again. If you have gotten into the Desmos activity, thank you so much. There are a total of 5 slides, and we'll go over these shortly just as a getting to know you type warm up. But before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to Solana.
Good morning, everyone. I just dropped those links in the chat again while we do some brief introductions if you want to make sure you get signed in if you just joined us, and click into that Desmos activity as Jessica mentioned. My name is Solana Ray. My picture is down on the bottom right of the screen there. That's me on top of Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. All of these introduction pictures we noticed are from before COVID times when we used to be able to travel all over the state and the country and the world, working with supporting teachers in different schools and districts. In fact, the picture on the left is the 3 of us atop Table Mountain in Cape Town.
You're gonna lay on your stomach.
Oh, sorry, Michael. I think, or someone I see is not muted. So there's the 3 of us there. We are a small but mighty team that make up Callahan Consulting. My background is in elementary education and also in supporting middle schools. And then I will let the other 2 members of my team introduce themselves. Patrick, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Solana. Well, welcome everyone. My name's Patrick Callahan, and I've had the pleasure and privilege of working in the consulting business and working with math teachers at all levels. My background, I actually was a university mathematics professor, but I got involved in teacher preparation and teacher professional development 30 years ago. And I've been working in various capacities with Los Angeles Unified School District for the past 20 years. So it's a real treat to be here. So thank you, Jessica.
Awesome, thank you so much. And again, my name is Jessica Bali, and my background is in teaching secondary mathematics. I was a high school math teacher up north in Sonoma County for 10 years. I taught in like the Santa Rosa area, if anybody's familiar with that neck of the woods. I've had, much like my team, the pleasure of working with teachers in LA Unified for the last few years. I saw in the registration that we had some folks from Fulton Middle School and then also McClay Middle School. And so I know we've got some folks that perhaps we've worked with in the past. So great to see you again. And for those of us, or for those of you that are new, we haven't had the pleasure of working with before, we really are excited to meet you and work with you in this series. And we're going to just give you a little bit of background about that in a moment. I just wanted to show you kind of a who's in the room. And so how I have put this together is using a program called Desmos. For those of you that did complete our brief survey, just sort of like a what kind of curriculum are you using, what technology, et cetera. This one did come up as having, it was pretty popular, Desmos. And then also in our Thursday session, many teachers did highlight this as something that they wanted to learn more about. So lots of really amazing resources through Desmos, which is a completely free web-based program. And this is one of the slides that we put together. I think everybody was able to view this one. Great way to just kind of connect with your students. Tell me something about your name. What do you prefer? This is sort of like that first day of school. I see you're listed as this on my roster, but what do you prefer? And so just a nice way to get that information from your students without them having to necessarily unmute and things like that. And then, you know, if there's anything else that folks would like to share about their name, nice. Jessica, I see. I actually get called Jennifer a lot, only because I think that it's another common J name. So I always wanted a different name because I thought that Jessica was like super common, but that's okay. I have come to accept it. Let's see. I usually go by your last name. That's good to know. Nice. Excellent. So again, just a way to sort of connect with some of your students about their name, the meaning of their name, and what they prefer to be called. And here was just a quick little check-in. I'm going to click on this overlay option. I like to see that as a group, we're generally feeling pretty positive. And I totally understand that it's Saturday. It's probably been a really long week. So and you know, for some folks, maybe it's kind of early. And so I totally understand the quadrant 4 here. And quadrant 1, I like to see that, like, you know, we're feeling positive, and hopefully you guys leave here feeling positive and energized as well, as we have really tried to design the next 2 hours or so to engage you and leave you here with some strategies to help engage your students. This slide, I just like to get to see, you know, what's important to you. Family is definitely one that comes up pretty consistently, and you guys are no exception. And nice to see that we've got lots of family focus here. And, you know, we just see this as an opportunity for you to sort of feel part of the community of math educators in LAUSD, but then also that you hopefully feel safe to reach out if you ever have questions of us, and that you would, you know, like some additional support. As Solana had mentioned, you know, those pictures sort of represented for us some of our previous travels, and we are very always very excited to do some traveling. And so it looks like we've got quite a diverse group here as well. I'm guessing like some travel down to Mexico. I'm guessing this is like up in Canada, and got some Europe and maybe some Middle East. I'm not quite sure what that one is. A little Eastern Africa, some China. A lot of diverse travel destinations in this group. So really excited to see that. Lastly, this is just something that I think it's important to ask kids about too, something that they know a lot about. And, you know, you could change this to something, you know, things that you're curious about, things that you're passionate about. You know, I love yoga. Sandra, you have many things that you could teach me. So thank you for sharing that. And this is awesome to see that we have participants that are super knowledgeable about their practice and their teaching practice. Ooh, accommodations, collaboration, nice. Ooh, good. This is awesome. Engagement with music, nice. Well, it looks like you guys are off to a great start, and really excited to have so many of you here this morning. I'm going to go back to our slide deck, and I'm going to ask Solana to just take us through a little bit of some additional logistics and information about the series.
Hello again. We really like to start off with that Desmos activity, just because it's a great little tool to kind of get to know who you're working with here, and it's great to have those insights about all of you. Real quickly, just a brief overview of our agenda today. As Jessica mentioned, and Froza as well, this particular session is going to be focusing on student engagement. And each one of our sessions will address a specific problem of practice. So this one in particular will be student engagement. They will each be focused. We're going to focus on some instructional routines that specifically support Tier 2 students, and that are but that are great for all students. and that are anchored in 8th grade content. We know there's a variety of different curriculum that you are using, but all of the content that we pull will be from 8th grade for this whole series. And we really just we hope to build a powerful mathematics community across all of you. I know you're from all different sites. And so we hope that you leave here with, some cool ideas from your colleagues, as well as hopefully feel prepared to try out some of the strategies we share with your students. The agenda right now, we're doing some welcoming and introductions. We're going to talk about student engagement and kind of what it looks like and what challenges are presented with this distance learning kind of reality. You're going to experience as learners, and we're going to kind of explore 2 different instructional strategies. And then we're going to do some work on a student-worthy task, a group-worthy task, and specifically focusing on how we can have students collaborate in distance learning. And then we really wanted to build in some time for you to rehearse and practice some of these things. So we will have time dedicated towards the end of the session to explore some resources and have some support in actually planning something to take to your classrooms next week, hopefully. One more thing is at the end of the session, we'll have an office hour, which is actually about 15 minutes just to be here to support and answer questions and everything. So that's kind of at the end of the day or the end of the session. We also have dropped in the chat a sign-in sheet. If you haven't done that, please make sure you sign in at the beginning. We'll drop it again at the end, just to make sure you're compensated for your time here today. And then we wanted to mention this, as Feroza mentioned, this is part of a 4-part series. Today is the first one, of course, and then we have our second one will be in March 20th with a different focus, a different problem of practice focus. You'll see it's sense making and non-routine problems. The third one will be in mid-April around written and oral communication in math class, and the fourth one, May 8th, around number sense and problem solving. And I did want to mention that in between that February and March meeting, we will have a little check-in time, as Feroza mentioned, just to kind of see if you've tried any of the strategies or what's working or what challenges you might be having. One thing that will remain consistent through all of the series is that all of the sessions on the Saturdays will be from 9 o'clock to 11:15. We're running this series parallel to a Thursday session. So some people that joined us Thursday will always come on Thursday and you will always come on Saturday. However, I think we are flexible. If you can't make it one Saturday, you can come on the Thursday of that session. We will always use this Zoom link, so that will remain consistent, and we will always have all of the resources shared. We will have a recording of the session in case you need to step out and need to catch up on something or look back. And as we mentioned, there will be that problem of practice that's the focus for each one of the series or each one of the sessions, and we'll have that rehearsal time built in. So hopefully you'll feel really prepared to leave this meeting with something in hand that you can use in your classroom. And this is one thing that we wanted to point out, just, we're both former classroom teachers, and we know that there are a ton of different problems of practice that we're all encountering this year. And we have chosen these 4 to kind of guide how we build this series. But we are here for you and we are listening. So when we send our survey at the end of the day, if there's something specific that you would like to have addressed in one of our sessions, we are flexible and we will happily see what we can do to support you and build that in. So we really want this to be useful for you and powerful. So yeah, share with us if there's something in particular that you are finding challenging or that you need some support with. And then lastly, we're going to kind of pack a lot into these 2 hours. We're going to kind of cast a wide net and share a lot of ideas and strategies and tech tools. We wanted to reassure you, please don't feel like you need to try all of the things. I know sometimes I go to conferences and I hear so much stuff and then I get back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know which thing to do. So try to, we just hope that you feel comfortable trying 1 or 2 of the things that we share today. and that you feel like you're supported and can maybe try something new or refine something that you're already doing in your class. So we're here to support you, and hopefully you'll find something great to help engage your students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lana. And this next piece, as we've mentioned in a couple different ways, is really going to focus on student engagement today and strategies for engaging students. This is something that we're hearing across the country and world, that students are sort of lacking some of that engagement. So we thought that it would be important and worthwhile to just sort of engage in a conversation as colleagues around these three questions of what does student engagement look like? And what are some roadblocks to like maximizing student engagement? And lastly, what can we control? Because I think that's an important thing to remember, that there are going to be things that sort of stifle student engagement, but some of those things are totally out of our control. So Solana has dropped into the chat, and I invite you to navigate to this Jamboard. It has just duplicated slides across the top. So we just ask that whichever breakout room that you join, and I think we only have 4 different breakout rooms. So just please make sure to navigate to the slide that corresponds to your breakout room. And go ahead and introduce yourselves to your new friends in your breakout rooms. And then you can go ahead and just add a sticky note with any ideas and then put it in whichever column. We're going to do this for 10 minutes. So I've set the time for 9 minutes, and then you'll have a 60-second close. So we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation in that conversation with your colleagues. Hopefully you got to meet somebody new and share some ideas about student engagement. So for this next piece, what we're going to ask you to do is a Jamboard gallery walk. And so if you do click back into the Jamboard, you'll notice that you can navigate to different slides within the Jamboard. You can see that there are 15 of them, but we don't have that many participants here today. So it looks like we have sticky notes on the first 3 slides. So if you'd just like to navigate between the first 3 to read and synthesize, we're going to go through a little discussion where I'll just collect some notes about just some general ideas. But if you'd like to go ahead and navigate to one of the other slides that did not belong to your group, we'll come back in about 3 minutes to do some synthesis. Synthesizing? We will synthesize. All right. Feroza shared that when she looks at the Jamboard, that the 3 columns don't show up when you guys were working. Did the 3 columns show up? And can anybody give me a thumbs up or? Okay, cool. I see a couple of them. So first, I'm not sure why that's not showing up for you. That's odd. What I'd like to just do here is, and this is something that we will, we're purposefully modeling. You don't have to do it around this conversation or topic, but sort of taking some live notes that can then live in a Google slide deck for your students. So what are some things that you saw either as trends or a particular sticky note that stood out to you? I'd like just to, if you'd unmute yourself and share with us what's something that you saw that you think would be nice to include as part of the whole group sort of artifact in any of the three categories.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sylvia. Oh,
Hi, Sylvia. I hear you.
hi. Yeah. So, so you want to know what we saw in this experience?
Yeah, so just anything
Okay.
that you think would be important to sort of include in an artifact that sort of synthesizes the discussion or the responses to in any of these three questions.
To summarize
Sure.
the whole experience.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a way. This is one place that it's promising to get the students to start a conversation.
And can you say more about that? What is promising? Like the activity structure, or
It's a space will allow students to eventually, really engage in a topic and collaborate.
great.
Yeah.
So if I understand what you're saying, using something like a Jamboard with some prompts where students can go into a breakout room and have a very specific topic to discuss is a structure that might be able to highlight or show student engagement.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other takeaways or things that you'd like to include in this sort of general synthesis around what student engagement looks like? And I sort of got the sense that it was both like what we're currently dealing with and what engagement, some of the frustrations around student engagement, like cameras off, things like that. But if we were to think about what would we, if I walked into a classroom or I clicked in a Zoom link and I was like, wow, those students were engaged, what might that look like? What do we think?
This is
Jessica,
Ifemba.
I'm sorry.
Please.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, I think for me, student engagement looks like in the classroom, teacher posting a question and the student responding to that question in a positive manner, maybe taking turns responding randomly, or teacher calling on them, use of wheel of names or something, and students are participating on that question being posted to them, like sharing their ideas.
So I heard you say like participation, if the teacher poses a question, then there's some sort of a response from the student.
Correct.
Excellent, thank you. And I heard somebody else.
Yeah, Jessica, this is Rio Doherty.
Hi, Rio.
Hi, I wasn't able to write as fast as trying to navigate the Jamboard, but I was with Miss Kanji Feroza and Miss Molcho Di Reggio. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But my thinking is for the, we talk about low participation, low energy, camera off, how it looked like. My thinking is the control that we have will be two things. Number one, giving students equal response opportunity, not just calling the ones who always raise their hand, making it a little bit personal and just like, making first of all, making it safe to answer. I always tell my students there's no wrong answer. We can talk about it, no judgment in this class. Also, the second one will be to give them prompt feedback, immediate feedback, whether the answer is correct or not. You have to say something, not always praising the answer, not always putting it down, just like saying something that would actually illustrate that you're acknowledging that they answered your questions, or they even asked a question. I encourage questions. I tell them, if you ask me a question, that means to say you were paying attention to me. And then I think those two things, immediate feedback and equal response opportunities, will be very good in things that we can control so that students can participate more.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rio. Appreciate that. Anything else that you would like to see documented in our whole group synthesis summary here?
Okay, for me, the roadblocks also would be at times internet connection, the log out of Zoom, having problem, having wireless issues and all this stuff. It's always the problem.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that is such a reality that our students are dealing with, the connectivity issues. And, perhaps they're in a household where there are, 3 or 4 more people that are sort of sucking the energy out of the Wi-Fi. And so that is why we sort of coupled it with this question about what we can control, because I know it's really frustrating to see just a lot of black squares without the students' cameras on, but it really could be motivated by the fact that they just don't have the connectivity strength. And that's just not something that we can control. So I thought it was wonderful to see in the Jamboard questions, like, how can we still ask them or give them opportunities to engage that don't look like having to turn their cameras on or asking them to unmute, right? Like, so far, things that we've tried to model don't require that you do unmute or that you have to turn your camera on, because we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that not every student is going to have that accessible. But obviously, it would be great if we had like all the screens on and we got to see everybody, so we don't feel like we're just talking to this blank void, right? But I'm happy to see that we're being very mindful of the things that we can and cannot control. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
I'm sorry, can I share one more thing, please?
Of course, please.
Yeah, that's something I noticed. Some students, it's not that they don't want to participate, because when I start calling and talking to parents, you can see some of them are they're not comfortable sharing their home. And there are ones I noticed, there are students who is even homeless, he cannot log in because of where he is. It's not that he doesn't want to show up or anything. So we have to talk about accommodation where the students are staying. They're not comfortable showing their houses. It's not that some of them are willing to participate, but because of the environment, they don't want to show up their videos and all those stuff.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I have been in classrooms where I've even seen students physically, like, you can tell they pick up their computer and they move into a different room because it's like, oh, I really want to unmute and ask a question, but where I am right now is way too noisy. Or, as you're mentioning too, sort of that extreme case of like, look, I'm just not comfortable sharing with you where I am physically. And so that's why I choose to have my camera off. So thank you so much for bringing that as part of this conversation. So we do acknowledge that student engagement is a struggle, and it's something that teachers are always trying to improve upon and address. And so we have a couple different ideas to share with you today, and I'll turn it over to Solana to talk about Notice and Wonder.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, one of our favorite kind of quick and easy strategies that some of you might be familiar with, because I know it does show up on the LAUSD instructional guideposts, but is the Notice and Wonder activity. And if you've never seen one before, it's really just what it sounds like. You're going to observe kind of an image or a video or a graph and share some kind of natural noticings and wonderings about it. The one that we're going to participate with or use right now comes from the illustrative math curriculum. I know that some people are using that one. This is an 8th grade linear relationships unit, and this particular lesson, this activity comes from a warm-up activity on a lesson about understanding proportional relationships. So we're going to just do a quick activity with you. Pretend you're students. If you can, take your teacher hat off for just a second. Here are 2 graphs, and I just want you to look for about a minute and notice and wonder. What do you see? What do you have questions about? You can go ahead and drop those in the chat, or if you want to unmute and tell me something that you notice about these graphs or what you wonder about them. Just take a second and look. And I wonder if someone would like to unmute. Since we have a small group, we can go ahead and just unmute and share maybe. And I will scribe some of your noticings and wonderings. What do you notice about these graphs? Would anyone like to share something they notice?
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I noticed that the graphs is positive graph because they're all going up.
Great, thank you. Someone else? Something else you can notice?
I wonder why one has two lines and the other one has two, and then it has letters.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else notice, wonder something about this?
I wonder why the second graph doesn't have any variables. So what variables is it measuring? Is it
Great, thank you.
I noticed that both graphs have the same scale. They're the units are the same. The first graph has labels, what the y-axis is and what the x-axis is. The second graph does not.
Thank you so much.
I noticed the graph has a proportional relationship.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I noticed the change from the first graph to the second graph. Where do we have to put it in one? Where did the point meets? You know, the line become one line when the gap get close together.
So does that second graph represent some combination of those other lines?
Yes.
Oh, so that's a wonder. I'm gonna add that over here because that's a something that I wonder as well. Awesome. I see another noticing. Does the second graph relate to the two lines in the first graph? Awesome.
And in the chat, there's a noticing. Did you get that one? Sorry. In the second graph, the line goes from one corner to the other and divides the quadrant in half.
These are all important noticings and wonderings that will connect nicely to the lesson we're going to do today. Line from divides the quadrant. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for all of your noticings and wonderings. If you put your teacher hats back on, of course, this is a great collection of insights that we just got about our students of what they know about these types of graphs. What you can do as a teacher then is, pick some of those things. Do you see some connections that you could make? Do you see some language that you were hoping to bring out? People talked about proportional relationships. We talked about scale, the different lines, the labels, the axes, all of that language that's being brought out by students, you can kind of capitalize and make sure that everybody knows what those words mean. It's a great time to address kind of that kind of academic math vocabulary. Also, basically, when you do this activity, it's a great kind of access point because everyone can notice something, right? And every student can notice something, even if it's as simple as I see two lines in one line. So it's a real equitable and comfortable, safe place to start from because everyone can notice something about the graph. So basically the protocol for doing one of these, and you might be familiar with this, is show an interesting picture that might elicit some of those mathematical conversations. It is great if it's related to the content of your lesson that is kind of going to lead into the work that you're going to do that day. But it might just be you kind of want to get some insights about what your kids know about a particular content before you get started with it. You want to give time for students to look and think. There's a couple different ways you can do this. We did this synchronously. You could do it in the chat. People can unmute and share like we did. With a larger group, that might not be quite as easy. Or you could give a picture like this to notice and wonder asynchronously as a little homework assignment, like write a couple things that you notice or wonder, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow when we start class. So just a couple options of how to do that there. And one thing that's important is to honor all student thinking, as long as it's appropriate. Record everything that people say, because you'll be surprised of how many connections you can make between noticings from different students and how you can utilize those in your instruction. And then it's a great time to to address misconceptions. You know, if someone says something that another student might challenge, like, oh, this is a linear relationship. No, it's a proportional relationship. Or these both grow through the origin. Do they? Yeah. Okay. So things like that. It's a great time to kind of address those misconceptions and kind of give some support just in time based on the kind of information that your students are giving you, the things that are coming up from their insights and their noticings and wonderings.
And the only other thing I would add is I know that we have several teachers here as part of our group that support students with special needs and or students whose primary language might not be English. And so both of those populations certainly would have access to this type of activity because, you know, if they're looking at a picture, it might just, you know, be something that comes to their mind visually, as opposed to, like, it's not dependent on how successful they've been in a previous unit or grade. They don't have to decode a lot of language. So lots of access points, as Solana said, to a variety of populations of students.
Yeah, and so when we have our time in the latter half of this session to kind of do some planning, if you want to spend that time looking at some notice and wonder resources, these are the two questions that I urge you to keep in mind. The first one is, how does when you're looking at a list of notice and wonders, there's a ton of them out there, but how does that particular image connect to the grade level content that you're teaching or that you're about to teach? And then secondly, what would be some kind of just-in-time supports that you anticipate that students might need? So I'm going to show you on this next slide an example of an image that I pulled from one of the resources we're going to share later. Suppose that you showed a picture like this and asked students to notice and wonder. As 8th grade teachers, what kind of content do you see this possibly connecting to? You can drop it in the chat or unmute. What might this be a great warm-up for, to launch you into? Thank you, Liana. Yeah, volume. I know that in 8th grade, you're not really dealing with rectangular prisms as much as you're dealing with cones and cylinders, but a great way to kind of jumpstart the conversation around volume. Do students even remember what that is from 5th grade? And that might be one of the supports that you anticipate as well. Like, okay, we're going to start talking about volume in this next unit. Do students remember how to find volume? What is volume? You might need to have that kind of support ready and anticipate that students might need that just in time. Perhaps it's around multiplication, anything like that that you might have kind of in the back of your mind to support this conversation about volume that this warm-up might lead into. Counting, approximating, yeah, there's a tons of things that you can notice and wonder about this. So that's what's great about these, is they're open-ended. They're engaging because there's always kind of an interesting picture, like, let me look at that. What do I wonder about that? What's going on? What kind of math can I see here in this picture? Just another couple examples here. We're going to click through a few from illustrative math. Here's one with some hanging socks. And I don't know if you've done like the hanging diagrams, but that's a great way to think about balancing equations. We've got one here on, this one's actually part of an applet that you can kind of play with, but this one's about dilations. We've got one about functions, equations.
Lots of good stuff. Uh-oh, did I freeze? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. Wondering if maybe Solana froze. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry. I think we had a little freeze out there, but did you want to say anything to wrap up that notice and wonder piece?
Oh, I'm not sure where you lost me, but basically I was just mentioning that there are a ton of resources with interesting pictures that can kind of elicit and jumpstart mathematical conversations in your classroom. And that will be one of the options for how you might spend that planning time at the end of this, at the close of the session. So
Lana, can you go back and show me the other picture, not pictures, yeah, the other 3 slides back? Yeah, thank you.
Starting here?
Yes,
Cool. So yeah,
thank you. And the other.
Mhm.
So these are great to use kind of as a warm up, just to kind of get kids talking, get the conversations going. As Jessica mentioned, normally we wouldn't have all of this text on the side. It would just be a picture of the graph or a picture of those boxes or a picture of something. And you just let kids kind of notice and wonder. And what's really cool is that you can pick something. If somebody brings up something like Feroza's noticing about, the line going from one corner to the other and dividing the quadrant in half, is that important? Do we know anything about that? What does that mean about what's happening in this situation of this graph? And you can kind of pull on those things that aren't coming from me, they're coming from you, the students, that are wondering these things naturally. So I think it's a really, and with those socks, that conversation, kids will inevitably say like, maybe one of them is heavier than the other. I don't know, I wonder, is there a rock in one of them? Like, why aren't they balanced? Something's weird. So, and you can kind of do the work as the teacher of making that connection to whatever content you're working on.
And I think that, if we were in the physical classroom, a lot of this work that Solana was doing to scribe your ideas could either live on your whiteboard, or if you write it on a poster or something. It's a really nice artifact to keep and then kind of circle back to and continue to revisit throughout the course of the lesson. So like, we wondered about this, like, let's go back to that. Now that we've like progressed through some of the learning of the lesson, let's go back. Do we have anything that we can sort of answer, or like, can we address some of our wonderings? Can we make connections between some of our noticings? And so it's just a nice artifact to continue to sort of revisit as part of the conversation and part of the lesson and the learning. So yes, it doesn't have to be a Jamboard, but whatever tool you're using. So we're going to jump into this other activity called a Would You Rather. And I would just like to say that there are many, many different versions of this out there on the internet. And I would highly encourage you, if you are looking for an opportunity to include something like this in a class, it's pretty important that you Google Would You Rather and include the word math, because it gets a little bit not really middle school appropriate if you just Google Would You Rather game. So just keep that in mind. The structure is essentially you're given a choice between 2 options. So would you rather have this, do this, whatever, or this? And it's up to you to decide which makes the most sense to you. And then in the spirit of sort of collecting some evidence, or for students to practice some of that justification, they also need to think about this, whichever answer you choose, justify your reasoning with mathematics. So we're going to actually revisit our Desmos activity, and I'm going to pace you a little bit differently. Oops, I got to move your faces. I'm going to pace you to slide 7. And so Solana has dropped into the into the chat the link to the Desmos activity. And the question here is, would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head? That's option 1, or $225. So I'm looking for everybody to join us here on slide 7 in the Desmos activity. I've only got 3 of you here, so I'm hoping if you can click on in the chat, or if you still have it open, you can just revisit that. But I'd like everybody to go ahead and navigate to slide 7. All right, And what I'd like you to do is just make a decision, a gut instinct. Would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head or $225? And I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to just answer that question. So would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head or $225? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to pause. There is no sound more amazingly beautiful than a classroom full of students that are working on a Desmos activity, and you hit pause and they all scream out, "No!" It's amazing. I live for that sound. So kind of is dependent in this setting that you have them unmuted, but you can imagine it in your head. So the other feature that I'm going to introduce just briefly is I'm going to anonymize you. The reason that I'm doing this is especially if we are, just kind of getting to know each other, it helps students feel like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit safer about participating. I'm not being put on blast for something that, I didn't really know the answer to. So if I look at the overlay, I know we didn't have that many answer, but it looks like most people might have wanted $225. But look, we've got 225 quarters, 225, 225, 225. So looks like a lot of folks wanted the $225. Now, I know that I limited you in terms of time and I paused you, so maybe not everybody got a chance to answer, but I'm going to open it back up and I'd like you to think about what information would be helpful to know in order to answer this question, and I'd like you to type that into the box on your screen. So I've unpaused it. Feel free to answer. We're on slide 7. What information would be important to know to help you make a more informed decision here? Awesome. So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was wondering how, like, I'm here, but like, how do I, when you say slide 7, how do I move to slide 7, or are you answering in the same spot?
So I think you should be in slide 7. Let me see.
Oh, okay. So it's the same, right? Okay.
So
okay.
Is this what you see? Does it look like this?
Yeah, the space and yeah.
You can vote
for
here.
writing.
You can type here whatever information might be.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. So another thing I'll say about the anonymized feature is that you might have realized, like, wait a minute, my name changed. Well, your name actually changed to a famous mathematician. So Desmos is very passionate about bringing the voices of a variety of mathematical thinking and mathematicians into the space. So you'll notice that they're not, our traditional, just like Pythagoras and these like old dead white guys. It's a lot of like people of color, a lot of women. So it's really exciting to use that as like, wow, I see myself as a famous mathematician in this space, which is really cool for students to feel that. So I'm noticing here that some information that you might like is how many quarters are in your stack. Okay, so that actually is going to depend on how tall you are, which somebody else mentioned. I'd like to know how tall I am, right? That would be a useful information, because obviously if you're like 3 feet tall versus 7 feet tall, that's going to be a different amount of quarters, right? And that's really important here. Also, how many quarters constitute an inch? And also somebody else said it as like thickness of coins. So I'm wondering, how many quarters in a foot? That would, okay. So Solana is going to put into the chat a piece of information that might be useful. 1 quarter is 1.75 millimeters thick. Would that be useful? Could you use that information? I'm going to pace you now to the next slide, and I'll just give you a few minutes to think about now that you know that 1/4 is 1.75 millimeters, what would you rather? Would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head or $225? Go ahead and drag that point to represent your choice and use mathematics to justify your answer. All right, we've got some folks locking in. Thank you. Thanks, Jessica, for letting us know. Does anybody have any way to justify? I'm not sure if Sandra rejoined us, but Sandra, there's the link. Okay, good. Who's ready to share some mathematical thinking with us? You should see, you can choose which one you like, and then go ahead and type here, what's some mathematics that you can use to support your choice? So Liana, did that answer?
Yes, now I see it. Before I saw only what you shared and I was impossible. I click on everything. I thought that maybe I don't know to do something.
No, sorry about that. Hopefully you navigated here and this is what you're able to see.
But was my fault that I didn't click on something or I just didn't see it? Because now I see it.
I'm not sure. I'm noticing, so like I have everybody paste, like on paste to slide 8. And there are a couple folks that aren't, maybe they like aren't in the Desmos activity, but everybody should be directed to this slide. So I'm not sure.
So right now I see 8, but 7 was impossible. I saw what everybody else was doing, but was impossible for me to write an answer. I saw when you show to somebody else for a second, and then when you after you showed, like disappear again. So was not.
Sorry. I'm not sure what would be causing that.
Yeah. So just to let I don't know either. Yeah. Okay. Now
Thanks for
now
letting.
I don't see it. Now I don't see it again.
Okay, so you're probably looking in Zoom.
Yes.
What I'm thinking is that you need to click into your window that is that has Desmos opened.
Okay. Yeah, that are the blocks for the kids too. It's like I imagine. It's like I'm the teacher and it takes me a while to figure out what about that.
Did that solve your problem?
Right now, I have the full screen with what you are sharing, and you tell me that maybe I should. I don't know where to click to minimize.
So I'm going to stop
my screen. Yeah.
If I stop share,
Yes.
and if you use, like, I don't know if you use Google Chrome or Safari or.
Yeah, I have my computer, I don't know, my PC, I don't know.
Or even in the chat, you'll see that we shared the Desmos link with you. If you click directly onto that link, that should hopefully navigate you to.
Yeah, I was able to do the first activity. So I answered in Desmos, yes? But now was like, find everything till you have us with slide 7. And then I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
So right now, what should I do to go back?
So in the Zoom chat,
yes,
The last thing that I sent is the Desmos Would You Rather. Go ahead and click on that link.
Yes.
And then that should take you to, it should take you here.
Okay, I see. Welcome to LAUSD, a grade session 1.
Okay. I think I see you here.
Now I see. Would
Okay.
you rather? Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. I am good. Thank you.
Excellent. Good problem solving.
Yeah.
So I'm looking here. We've got some some scaling or something. It seems like 400 quarters stack up to a foot. Since I am 5 feet plus, I need 2,000 plus quarters. So like seems like measuring for a foot and then scaling up to the height is a strategy. 225 dollars times 4 quarters. So that's 900 quarters. Interesting. So you took this and found the height, how tall a stack of quarters would be for the value of $225. And then I'm assuming compared it to your height. That is not a strategy that I had seen before. Nice. Based on my height, it would be the same amount of money. Interesting. Aha. So that's totally possible, right? And what we saw in the previous slide, like what information would be useful, you said like, I would probably want to know how tall I am, because if I'm really short versus really tall, it's going to depend, right? So I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to circle back to our slide deck. And I just want to address something here. We are making it a priority to sort of discuss like what would just-in-time support look like, and then what would grade level support in terms of content look like. So I would describe sort of this question for an 8th grade student, kind of that just-in-time support. I'm trying to read, what kind of problem solving strategies are they using? Do they feel comfortable with this like idea of proportional relationships, unit conversion, finding a unit rate? Because I know that my grade level content with linear relationships and graphing and systems of equations, I'm going to need them to sort of understand this idea of unit and rate of change. So I'd like to introduce something to you as a modification. Sorry, I shouldn't have gone backwards, but has a mind of its own, as more of a grade level prompt. So here's what I would call is like an 8th grade content question or version of this. So would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head plus 6 more quarters every day for 1 year, or $225 plus $2 every day for 1 year? So we're not going to have time to do this piece, but what I have set up for you in the Desmos, which I can open up later, is basically an 8th grade version of this. So I've given you an option to graph, because that's really kind of that 8th grade standard of taking those types of linear relationships and then being able to graph them. So would you rather have a stack of quarters from the floor to the top of your head plus $1.50 every day for 1 year, or $225 plus $2 every day for 1 year? And I've given you the option to use this little wrench icon over here. You can change the scale and the view and the axes and stuff. And then the last question is, would you rather, and then what are some key features of your graph that helped you make this decision? So we've essentially taken this item that started as like dealing with unit rates, unit conversion, measurement, things like that, and kind of just, also writing a mathematical explanation. But now by adding these additional questions, we've kicked it up into an 8th grade, squarely 8th grade question about a systems of equations situation. So just wanted to share that as a strategy with you, as how you can take some existing resources, but make them more applicable to your grade level. All right, so we're going to move on. I'm going to let Solana talk briefly about this next step.
All right, so we're just about to take a quick little stretch break, but before we did, we wanted to kind of get organized of how we want to spend the rehearsal and practice time that we'll do in a little bit. We've kind of built in these three sections that you could choose to work on. We've done the first two already. We've done working on a Desmos activity, and we've experienced notice and wonder and would you rather. So if during the practice time you would like to do one of those things, learn how to create a Desmos activity, or find resources and plan a notice and wonder or would you rather activity, you can choose one of those. When we come back from the break, we're going to do a kind of a student collaboration piece. And if you're interested in that, you can certainly choose that option as well. Jessica is going to put into the chat a Jamboard that has these three choices, just so we can get the breakout rooms organized while you're working on the collaboration activity. If you want to go ahead and click into there and find your name and just drag your sticky note to the column of the kind of the thing that sounds most exciting to you to spend that time on. We're going to have about 20 minutes for you to plan and practice one of these things. So go ahead and click into that Jamboard, look for your name, and just drag that sticky note to the appropriate column. That way we can get you guys organized and working with people with similar interests. Cool. I see you moving.
Hooray, made it in there.
And certainly if you change your mind after we do this student collaboration piece, you can change to that as well. We'll give everyone a chance to do that, move your sticky notes, and then we're gonna take just a 5-minute bio break, get some water, get up and move around, do whatever you need to do. And what do you think, Jessica? What time should we come back?
10:30?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see everybody back here at 10:30. Get your coffee, use the restroom, do a little stretch, whatever you need. We'll see you back at 10:30. All right, hopefully everybody had a chance to get a quick stretch break and refill their coffee. And let's go ahead and dive right into our next piece. I think it's nice to just sort of get out in the open what we mean, or what we mean when we talk about group worthy tasks. So in the chat, could you please share, what do you think makes a task or a problem, quote, group worthy? All right, so we've got interactive, less anxiety, okay. A lot of collaboration. The reason that we're bringing this up is because if we're really thinking about student engagement, we want, what I've seen a lot is that teachers are, for example, using breakout rooms to have students go in and work on a problem and collaborate. But in reflecting, they'll like bounce into the breakout rooms and notice that students are not really engaging or participating. And so, we were kind of thinking about like, well, what are they really being asked to do in the first place? And is it really a task that we would consider, quote, group worthy, or even like, is it worth having students work together? I'm going to skip to this next piece. So we're going to do one together here. And thank you to those who are still adding into the chat. This is a problem that comes from an 8th grade lesson. And it starts with Diego and Lynn are drinking milkshakes. Lynn starts with 12 ounces and drinks 1/4 of an ounce per second. Diego starts with 20 ounces and drinks 2/3 of an ounce per second. Without graphing, explain what the graphs in this situation would look like. Think about slope, intercepts, axes labels, units, and intersection points to guide your thinking. Discuss your description with your partner, and if you disagree, work to reach an agreement. So the other follow-up question here is, if Diego and Lynn start drinking their milkshakes at the same time, who will finish their milkshakes first, and how do you know? So in a moment, we're going to share with you a link to this shared Google slide deck. This is a strategy that we've been using with students to really promote that collaboration piece. You will be placed into a breakout room with one other person, and we just ask that you navigate to the slide that corresponds to your breakout room number. So you'll notice that in this slide, you have the prompt about Diego and Lynn and their milkshakes. And then in the speaker notes, we've asked you these 2 questions. So without graphing, describe what the graphs would look like. And then if Diego and Lynn start drinking their milkshakes at the same time, who will finish their milkshakes first and how do you know? So what we would like you to do in the next few minutes is, the process we'd like you to use is to join a breakout room and navigate to the corresponding slide. And it would probably be helpful if one of you in the breakout room shared your screen. And then we'd like you to work with your partner to answer the questions on your slide. In terms of time, we probably won't get to a solution at this point, and that's totally fine. So we would just like you to document on your slide what types of thinking, what kind of progress, and any sort of work towards a solution. Go ahead and document those directly into your slide. And your slide should include your ideas or any progress that you've made. So can anybody, we're going to modify the time as well, but can anybody restate, what should you have, like what is your product and how do you get there in the next 5 minutes or so when you join your breakout room? What is the ask here? If you can unmute yourself.
We're just making sure that you understand the instructions. So we're asking for one of you to kind of, can you restate what Jessica said in terms of what you're supposed to do when you go to the slides and what we're looking for?
So are you talking about the product, the final product, or the whole thing?
Sure, go ahead, whichever you'd like to speak to.
Okay, so in this slide, product, so talk about ideas, what was our, progress that we made towards the question. And if possible, have a solution for it, but we don't have to.
Great, thank you, Sylvia. Would anybody like to add on to what
Yeah.
Sylvia said?
So we're supposed to click on the link that you provided in the chat room, join the group, talk about it. You had forewarned us that we might not be able to do the solution per se today, but we should record everything that we can accomplish today.
Excellent, thank you so much, Rio. And that sounds good. Because of time, I'm setting it to 5 minutes and then we'll close with another minute. So introduce yourselves and just kind of record things that you're thinking about or even questions that you might have. This is a strategy that we will continue to revisit as part of the other sessions in our series. So don't worry, more to come with this. But I'm going to open up all the rooms and we'll see you back here in about 6 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I know that was not at all enough time. So good. You're like, wait, I want to do more math. This is a good thing. We appreciate your flexibility, and hopefully you at least got a little taste of this idea of using a collaboration tool of a shared Google slide deck and getting that set up for students and having them drop in some ideas. And then what's nice is that here you have this really great artifact that students can access asynchronously, or maybe when you pick up during the next class period, but you're just kind of giving them that taste and collecting some information about their preliminary thinking. So what we'd like though is just for you to give a quick little share out. What did you think of the task and the process in terms of group worthy, quote unquote, student collaboration, student engagement? Just a quick little share out. If you're more comfortable in the chat, please feel free to share that way. Or if you'd like to unmute and just make a comment about student engagement, group worthy tasks, student participation and collaboration, etc.
Hi, this is Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
Yeah, I like it because it's like a real life situation. Kids drink milk.
They love them a good milkshake, right?
Yeah. and so yeah, it would, yeah. And then yeah, and then they, this is what they already had, and so I think it's, but then at the same time I feel like you feel for the students, right? What the anxiety, like if they're not used to talking to each other. So yeah, so will be once they are comfortable with each other to talk.
Yeah.
Right. And even as adults sometimes, so it's we know how it feels.
Yeah.
And so for kids, yeah, it's like we have to get them there to talk.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing this up, Sylvia. It's certainly not something that you would probably have success doing on the first day of school, right? And thinking about not just the content needs and support, but even just like the culture of the class, like what would you need to sort of foster some of this safety that students would need to feel to engage in this kind of work. So thank you for bringing that up. Any other ideas that you'd like to share or thoughts about the connection to student engagement, collaboration, even just the idea of a group worthy task?
I think it's difficult when, based on the students, like their personalities, some of them are just not cooperating, and it's difficult when one is willing and the other is not, and is that struggle. And then as a teacher, you wonder how much time. So it's one of their personalities. And second, it's about the time. It's like some of them till they figure out, just to, like I am one of them. Once I learn, then I'm good. But before I figure it out, like takes me a while, and I panic that I couldn't answer, and I want to answer. So it's the dealing with the technology first.
Sure.
Just to click, I'm not familiar with Google or with Desmos. So just to click where is the text took me like, okay, let me figure out, must be a button with the text. But so just to start to answer, although I will know what to answer, took me a while. And by the time I figured out the answer, the time was up. So my question as a teacher is like, how much time we allow, and like, you know what I mean? Like for different kind of students. And some students are so good at technology, no problem, right away.
Right.
So it's one technology and two, the problem per se, the math.
Absolutely. And I think that in terms of your first question, with even students being able to enter the conversation because they're having to navigate the platform or the different devices or whatever, I think, again, much like the culture, that is established and built over time. You will probably not be throwing different things at them every single day, right? You might always use something like Desmos, or you might always use something like Nearpod, or whatever the platform that you're using. You will continue to build that consistency and that familiarity over time with your students so that they know sort of what to expect, right? Like, I know that when my teacher tells me to do this, I know where to navigate, but that's, that's what we still do that in the in-person class. Like, here's your notebook for this class. This is what I want you to do, right? Establishing a lot of those norms. So, I think that part, like we said at the beginning, our intention is to show you a variety of ways, but not pressure you into using Desmos or Google. Like, we want you to look for opportunities to utilize some of these strategies with whatever platform it is that you are using. And then the second question, once we've sort of navigated the technology or the platform, what's nice about this platform anyway is like, I can go and look to see which groups are writing some things. Maybe, I know we didn't have anybody in room 12. So like, if I look at room 12 and I'm expecting to see some student work, but there's nothing, I'm going to pop into room 12 and just check in. Do you guys have a question about the process or the product? And that's why we started with this slide, about the process and the product, because another thing that we're finding is when teachers do go into a breakout room and there is not really anything being produced, it's because students don't know what they're supposed to do. So having that really upfront ahead of time so that students know what the expectations are, you show them, this is what your slide deck looks like, here's what I want you to do. At least hopefully you catch more students that are going to potentially fall through that crack of like, well, I'm not going to do the work because I really don't understand what you want me to do, versus I don't understand what this question is asking me. That's a different type of support.
Yes.
Right? So I hope that answered some of your questions.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Jessica?
Of course. I'm not sure who's speaking.
I'm sorry, it's Rio.
Hi, Rio. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what you just said really made sense, because there was this study in the 80s where they say TESA, teacher expectation, student achievement. So if we expect whatever we expect, we normally get from our students. Sure. So and as far as the question, it's a fine line to walk. You don't want to give them so much time that they can just wander around and not be able, and too little time that they get so frustrated. So it's just depending on how much you know your students. But my other thing is, were you asking as a general, like what our opinion about this particular session, this PD, or are you just asking about the very last task that we did?
Just this very last task. We will collect your feedback in a survey at the end about the session itself.
Okay, yeah, so I was thinking anything that that can catch students' attention, because I guess the purpose of you kind of know whether your particular class was meaningful that particular day, right, is when the students come in. So your first task is to make sure they keep coming in. So if you provide, for example, a task and they know, oh, tomorrow I'm looking forward to what Miss Jessica will be presenting to us. So like today, I'm very excited because I like everything that has shown in here. Awesome. So I look at the time and I go, oh my goodness, it's almost finished. So you want for the students to feel the same way, not to dread, oh, my mom is asking me to join this class again. But you want that students would look forward to, oh, what is she gonna ask us to think about tomorrow? So I think this that is very task worthy. Anything that you can plan ahead so that students would keep coming back to your class is important.
No, I think that's really great feedback. And, I think that there's something to be said for not necessarily completing a task in its entirety, right? We knew that you didn't have enough time to do the task completely. So then it's like, I know what I'm going to be coming back to next time. And so thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right, Rio. We are almost out of time. And so the feedback that we got on Thursday, and something that we also are taking away from today, is that, I'm sure this never happens to you, group of teachers. Do you ever overplan for things? No, just us? Oh, okay, great. So a little over planning. Also, first day of school type situation where we're doing a lot of logistics and stuff. So we definitely are committed to incorporating more time for you to do some of that planning, but we do want to take about 10-ish minutes to put you into your selected breakout rooms. Solana has set them up where actually you should be able to choose which one you'd like to go to. So Solana, do you want to say something about that?
Sure. Based on where you dragged your sticky notes, and I see people are moving right now, so I'm going to move you over there. But I kind of put you in the rooms, but I think you should have the opportunity to move if you would like. Doris, I can move you right now because I know that it looks like you would rather be with the Desmos zone. So I will open those rooms and go ahead and join. If you would rather be in a room or if you want to have stay in this main room. If you have any questions, I will be here. Jessica is going to be joining the Desmos room to give you guys a little support over there. So Doris, I'm going to move you here and I will open those rooms.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
I'm glad we have a strong Jessica representation. All right, so you had shared that you are interested in doing some Desmos stuff. And so how many of you have used Desmos before? Has anybody here used it before? Okay, I see your
I
hand.
have.
Sorry, you have or have not?
Yeah,
Fabiola?
I have it in class, like in class, like not for my students, but for myself. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay, so you like as a participant in like a workshop or something?
No, like when I went back to school and we had to use Desmos. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I'll just show you some real basics. And so what I would direct you to do, and this is being recorded, so do not feel like you have to, write everything down, but Desmos has a couple different features. First one that where they started was just straight up desmos.com, which if you were to navigate to desmos.com, what you would notice is that it's actually a graphing calculator. So you can launch this graphing calculator, great tool for students. This is actually also the platform that students will have access to on the SBAC, the Desmos interface. So if you're looking for like the interface that you would like to sort of invest in terms of what students would be familiar with in SBAC, Desmos is your calculator. So they also just like a week ago launched their own curriculum, which is very similar to a lot of the curriculum with illustrative mathematics. If you're using CPM, many of the activities in CPM are aligned with Desmos. So lots of different pre-existing activities and problems live here at the website called teacher.desmos.com. So let's say I wanted to do something on systems of equations with my students because I know that that's coming up. Well, if you look over here on the left-hand side, you've got a lot of different menus, but one of them is called featured collections. All of these represent pre-made, already made and vetted activities that you can tap into. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to create anything. So let's say, hey, linear systems, perfect. So if I click on linear systems, I can see here descriptions of a variety of different activities, okay? So, I would encourage you, the ones that are by Desmos are as listed. The other ones are usually by teachers or other people in the field. But I encourage you to just kind of click around and see what's here. I am going to click on this guy and let's just see what it is. So it's got a little description here for me. And if you see, this is actually quite an extensive activity. It has 21 different slides, okay? If I wanted to see what it looks like from the student perspective, then I can just click on student preview and see, do I even like these questions? I can make that decision for myself. So I can click through and I can pretend like I'm a student. You will notice that in the bottom, they do have some teacher moves and suggestions if you are interested in reading those as well. And so, this, I can, again, just kind of click through, see, if this is manipulated, if I can manipulate it, it will also show that way for students, but I guess this one is not. So, okay, cool, good to know. Here are points, blah, blah, blah. Like, again, I'm just going to click through and see if I like it. I see you have your hand up.
Yes.
Go ahead. What's up?
Is there a way to cut out something from the slides that you don't like since it's 21?
I am so glad you asked that question. So option A, I like everything. Okay, that's going to be option A, right? And I'll show you what option B can look like. So if I do like this, and I want to give it to my students, I'm going to click on this assign button. Now, I do not have a class set up because I don't work directly with students. But if you're like playing around with Desmos and over time, you're like, man, this is super awesome. I like it. I want to be using this a lot. I suggest you actually set up a class because then it's a really streamlined way that you can give your students access to the activities. But if it's just something you want to use kind of touch and go, whatever, what you can do is just assign a single session code. So notice that this just came up with like, okay, I'm going to share this this code with my students. I'm going to click on this student link. This is the type of link that I gave you to join us in this activity from the beginning. So that there's one option, right? Like I want to show, or I want my kids to join just based on this link. So that's option A, if like I like all of the slides. So option B, let me see the easiest way to do this. Okay, so let's say I'm like, you know what, there are only a few of these slides that I really like. So you'll notice up here, you've got these 3 vertical dots. If I click on that, I can copy and edit. Dun, da, da, da. Where that takes me is to a slightly different view. And you'll notice that across the top, you still have all 21 of those slides, but you're probably thinking like, whoa, 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 that's way too much. And you know, I don't want to do this like first set of slides. So, okay, fine. X, delete it, done.
Okay.
You're voted off the island. X, you're voted off the island. You know, where you can just modify them however you like. And then once you're ready, you can click publish, and then that will have like a new version of the activity for you. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. I use Desmos, but I always worried about how I can delete or add or introduce something new after I borrow someone else's.
Yes. So I'm
Thank you.
You got it. How about 4 more minutes? I want to show you one other thing, because if you're not wanting to really like dip your toe into the content side of things, Desmos has been really good about doing some starter screens. And so if you notice, if you visit teacher.desmos.com, those starter screens are right there, and lots of different ways that you can check in, or random things, or classroom data collection screens. So these are not or whiteboards, right? Like how much do we miss those like physical whiteboards that our students might have had in class? So I encourage you to click around, even if it's something that you just want students to like do as a little check-in or community builder at the beginning of class. You know, lots of different things that you see here. You know, what's something new? Where are you at today? Do you agree or disagree? That kind of stuff. So the other thing that I'll show you is that, sorry, let me go back here. Let's say I like this one. You know, how are you feeling today? This robot seems kind of fun, and like, ooh, he turns red and gets real frowny, or he turns green and gets real smiley. That seems pretty cool. I want to include this. There's this little box up here that says copy this screen. So just like you can take a pre-existing activity and cut, you can copy and paste slides into an existing activity as well. So if I copy, then you're probably wondering, okay, Jessica, cool, but where do I paste it? So where you paste it is like if you have an activity already, or if you want to create one, you're going to click over here to custom. And let's say I'm like, ooh, I want to add it to this like systems one that I was working on, you know, because I want it to be like a little introduction for my students. Then here I am, and guess what? Control V, voila, there it is, it's pasted. Now, I might not want it as a second, so I just click it and drag it over here. How are we feeling today? How are we feeling? I know that was like rapid fire really fast, but the way that I have felt about, or the way that I feel that I've learned the most is just to sort of play around and tinker and see what's there. Desmos is extremely responsive if you do have questions. You can, if you're on social media, you can tweet them. They respond really fast. Or if you email them, they have lots of different resources and levels of support. So I highly encourage you to reach out if you need. How do we add slides? Say more about that. Do you mind unmuting and letting, whoa, sorry. Was that from Sandra?
The last step that you copy the robots to your lesson.
Okay, sure. So let's say, sorry, somehow I'm in like the same thing twice. So typically, if you want to add to something, let's say I've got, so anything that I've given to my students, it'll either be in my collection or in my custom. I don't have any collections, so I guess they're all in my customs. Or you can look at like your activity history. This would probably actually be where you would come if you've given any to your students that you didn't have to customize. But let's say we were working on this custom one. Sorry, I've got to move the chat for a second. If I found that robot one, okay, which was at the home screen. So I went to starter screens, right? And I said, okay, screens for checking in. And I've got this robot one that I liked. There was that little box right here that said copy. So I just clicked on that. And then I went to like my custom one that I'm like building for my systems activity. And then I would just, I think I have to edit it. So I'm going to edit your activity. And then it should give me the choice to copy or paste. And it just pastes right in there for you. And then you can like, if you want it to come at the beginning and at the end, then you can like drag it all the way to the end. It's up to you.
What is the plus sign for?
This one is if you want to add another screen. Woo, rapid fire. So good.
Welcome back, everybody.
Would you like me to share mine?
Sure, I just wanted to mention I'm dropping a resource doc into the chat with just some resources. If you were in the collaboration room and you wanted to, I kind of want to look at some notice and wonder resources or something like that, we made a document that has a link to our slide deck and to any of the resources that some of the other groups might have been exploring while you were in your breakout room. So just wanted to make sure you had that.
Yeah, so this is where that document should take you. I'm going to change this to Saturday because we recorded today, but you have access to this slide deck. You've got all sorts of good stuff here linked. So please feel free to click around there. That is to the document that Solana just dropped into the chat. So feel free to look there. We're going to skip ahead here. We talked about a lot of really good stuff today. I hope that you have found something that has sparked some interest for you, whether it be technology based or an instructional strategy. But I feel like we covered several different things today. And like Solana said at the beginning, this is the wide net that we were sort of referring to. We do not expect that you go back and try every single thing that you've seen here today. We know that that's not sustainable, but our call to action is that we want you to leave here today and try something that you've seen, whether it's tweaking something that you were already doing, adding to something that you were already doing, or, like really just jumping in and trying something brand new. We will be hosting or I'll get to that in a second, actually. I'm not sure if you are familiar with these guideposts, but these were things that the district shared with us, and we just wanted to highlight that. Good job, us team. We checked a lot of boxes here today. So lots of cool strategies that we shared, did address some good grade level and just-in-time content, which we really value. And so check, first session in the books. Good job. And as always, we will continue to meet from 9 to 11:15 on Saturdays during any of these dates. The only other thing I want to mention is that look out for an email. We hope that we can host a little like after school session, like for an hour or so during the week of March 1st. And the intention there is for you to come and, ask questions or like, hey, I tried this and I don't know, am I doing it right? Or is anybody else doing this and running into some roadblocks? And we just want to continue to foster that community and support for you. So with that, sorry, Solana, I don't know if I like totally went through the slides that you were supposed to talk about, but so Solana has just dropped into the chat the sign out sheet. So don't forget to sign out because we want to make sure that you get paid. And then if you can, it's really meaningful for us that you complete the participant survey. This is our internal survey that helps us plan and do better for you next time. So if you can please, I know that one of those is maybe a little more important to you because you get paid. The other one's a little more important to us because we want your feedback, but we also want you to get paid. So we'll be quiet now, and we're gonna put our emails in the chat as well so that they're copy and pastable. If I can spell my name, for the love, hello. But feel free to email us if you have questions. And once you're done with those surveys, guys, you are free to go. And we will hang out for some virtual office hours, more like minutes at this point. But, you know, we'll be here. Thank you guys so much for coming.